Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Hungaroring. The first qualifying for the International GTOpen Championship is already underway. Drivers just starting to filter out from the pit lane for this half-an-hour qualifying session here at the Hungaroring circuit, a circuit that is now really an established part of the old school. It's been around for 36 years. And it has long been a staple of the International GTOpen calendar, and a very challenging circuit. It's got some characteristics of more flowing circuits like the likes of Silverstone. It's also got plenty of sections that may remind you of a street circuit, albeit without the Armco hugging the sides of the tarmac. Lots of local and experienced hands here at the Hungaroring, the likes of the Jedlinski family, Stanislav, who you see on screen at the moment, and Marcin in the sister 777 Olymp Audi have both done plenty of laps around the Hungaroring over the years. We've got some local entries to keep an eye on as well. Chief among them is the Trevor Racing BMW M4 GT3, a car that makes its first appearance in International GTOpen. And we've got something of almost a semi-historic car these days in the form of the GFS Motorsport Aston Martin V12 Vantage GT3, driven by Janos Shanta. And he is making his first outing here in International GTOpen in a very, very wonderful 6-litre V12 screaming car. Very good to see that car back on back in the International GTOpen paddock for the first time in several seasons. So then the cars are just starting to make their outlaps. As you can see, no one has set a competitive time as of yet. The man who set the fastest time on Friday is at the wheel of this car, Nick Moss, the number 72 Optimum Motorsport McLaren. He was telling me in the paddock, and I'm not sure this is a McLaren circuit, but Nick Moss was the fastest driver point blank, and bear in mind he's a bronze-rated driver, the fastest driver point blank on Friday here at the Hungaroring. Looks like, after their misfortune at Spa, the Optimum Motorsport McLaren crew could be right back in the mix this weekend.
They certainly can be, Adam, and you're absolutely spot on, of course. Certainly the Optimum Motorsport McLaren back with a vengeance. Nick Moss looking very, very sharp indeed in our testing events, and certainly free practice too. And now making his way down this long straight. There's quite a variance in corners certainly here at Hungaroring. The long straight where the speed trap exists before turn 1. It's a heavy braking zone, but then after that you've got some very tight bends, certainly around turn 2 and 3, a very fast-paced one before you then venture into the middle sector 2, where you have turn 4, the first of the corners in that middle sector, in towards turn 5 with that very progressive right as well. Here's Dexter Muller, a man without a doubt that's going to be looking to try and embrace it here at Hungaroring, here in his Mercedes AMG GT3, making his way down the long straight. And you can't impress on the fact of getting a good start. Qualifying, very important here around Hungaroring.
Yeah, absolutely it will be. You don't want to be down in the team positions if you've got a car that's well sorted. Certainly, the word from the paddock seemingly is that this should be a Mercedes favouring circuit. This should be a track that suits the characteristics of the Mercedes AMG GT3 car. That's one example of which we currently ride on board with. These cars, unlike the road-going variant, are still powered by the 6.2 naturally aspirated V8 motor from the previous SLS AMG GT3 car. So even though the road car runs a 4-litre turbo unit, we've still got the sonorous, rumbling 6.2-litre V8 under the bonnet of these AMG GT3 machines, run by the likes of SPS Automotive Performance. And SPS have a second car here this weekend as well. Dominic Baumann will be out shortly in the number 20 car, a second entry from the SPS Automotive crew, with a returning familiar face and a former Pro-Am champion in the form of Valentin Pierberg. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of opportunities to talk about them. Here's Moritz Kranz, who was one of the pace setters yesterday for Get Speed Performance, another one of the Mercedes teams, of course, and he has set the early benchmark, a 1:44.511 at that time across the line. We got down to the 44.1s yesterday, but one would suspect that in Qualy trim, with the drivers going 10 tenths, we may well see them dip into the 43s today.
Yeah, would certainly expect so. Obviously, we wouldn't see the complete hands being shown in practice. Generally, a lot of them running different trims, race trims, quali trims, variances, just getting themselves used to and affirmed to Hungaroring. Steve Jans has now taken that top spot. He registers a 144.138 to go ahead of Moritz Kranz. Florian Schultz lining up in third place as well. Pascal Bachmann marking the return now of the street art. Aston Martin as well. Great to see them making their return to the Hungaroring. We missed them at Spa last time out, but they are here. And Aston Martin being represented here in the Hungarian circuit. Certainly as they now make their way through that very tight chicane. And Moritz Kranz again around this next left. That chicane can get so tight, so congested. You've got to flick over the curbs, try not to unsettle the car. This is what Hungary's all about, challenges. And these drivers are more than capable of certainly matching the challenges here at Hungaroring. Gilardoni has just struck the top as well. He breaks into the 143s, 143.950. Very, very confident heading into the weekend. And no doubt be looking to try and get his Oregon squadron up on top, fighting against their fellow teammates of Leonardo Polcini, as well as not to mention Ben Jahites as well. But you can imagine that Glenn Van Berlo is going to be watching on in the garage and hoping for a big performance off his teammate today.
Yes, of course, for the second drivers, the majority of the day is spent just kind of sitting there and hoping, really. For example, I mean, we're looking at Moritz Kranz there. Janine Schaffner, she's obviously not qualifying at the moment. She won't be starting the race because the driver that qualifies starts the race. It won't be until halfway through the race, there or thereabouts, that Janine gets to take over the car today. So you've got quite a lot of suspense for the second driver on both days, of course, because it's in reverse tomorrow. And yeah, it must be a bit anxiety-inducing just watching your car all day long, and then eventually you hope at the end of the day you're going to get a go.
Yeah, well, hoping to get a big result as well, hoping that their fellow driver, their teammate, and can score big, and that's massive. You know, certainly in the context where it comes to racing, certainly here at Hungary, where the circuit is very, very tight, and qualifying is so much more important. In fact, I mean, it's important regardless, but when you look at the circuit of Hungary itself, given its stylistic approach in terms of being a very, very slow progressive circuit, it can certainly offer a lot more challenges. As we're now watching Axel Jeffries move up into fifth fastest. Gilardoni comes up across the line. He's still in second fastest. Moritz Kranz in first. Baumann in third, with Steve Jans in fourth place. Now here's Adam Christodoulou. He's gone purple in the first sector himself, so he's looking to try and unleash the beast here in this particular part of qualifying. Just under 21 minutes remain as he now makes his way through this next selection of curves. Around this next right now, he's into sector 3 proper, just runs over the curbage there again slightly. Purple in the second sector too, so looking very good from Christodoulou, whittling away at the time, chopping at the wood as he now makes his way through in towards the next left. Now this is the very, very delayed bend. This next left, very progressive. He now hits the throttle now, powers out, leading down through towards the final corner at turn 14. And of course, he now rounds it, hugs the inside as best he can, gives himself a nice exit, leading up towards the line. What's Adam Christodoulou going to lodge onto the border? 143.366 sees him just under 0.3 of a second faster than that of Moritz Kranz.
Dexter Muller running wide there. That will be a track limits violation. Not that it looked like a particularly quick run through turn 12 anyway, but Dexter a bit too bold on the brakes there, and he'll be giving it another go. But Adam Christodoulou then to the top of the timing sheets with 1/3 of this 30-minute qualifying session in the books. Christodoulou has been one of the forces to be reckoned with in terms of qualifying time all day. However, track limits have struck for Christodoulou on the exit of turn 11, the last corner before you go on to the final sector. We saw it on camera that he ran it a bit wide, and it's been determined that it was a bit too wide. He has to now go and do another fast lap, and I'm sure he's got plenty in the arsenal, but he still won't be best pleased with that. Meanwhile, Axel Jeffries has gone top on a 143.416. Axel Jeffries back with Roman Zamian this weekend in the 73 Kessel Racing Ferrari. Great to have them back with us this weekend. And Axel Jeffries, much like Adam Christodoulou, always a hot favourite when it comes to qualifying.
Very, very quick, and represented by the time of 143.416. Not quite as fast as Christodoulou's deleted time on that previous run, but still enough to put him at the top end ahead of Moritz Kranz. by, again, just over 0.2 of a second. Christodoulou trying to hammer out another one now. Comes through this next left, and he's got one final corner to take before he then beckons onto the home straight. As he works his way through, straight back onto the power yet again. And this time, no fear, heading through this next right-hander as he now registers a top time again. Purple with a 1:43.284, and that's just over 1/10 of a second this time ahead of Axel Jeffries.
And they're showing a replay of turn 11 again, so let's wait with bated breath to hope that this time by it was deemed to be a legal line through turn 11. A 1:43.284 for now stands as the fastest time of the session, courtesy of Adam Christodoulou. But here comes Axel Jeffries in the Ferrari 488 GT3 car. Savour the experience of a V8 Ferrari in GT3 racing while you can. Next year we will see the Ferrari 296 GT3 car. That is a V6 power plant. Here comes the 488 though in the hands of Axel Jeffries, and it's not quite quick enough. It was a mega final sector from Adam Christodoulou. We saw that on his split times, and sure enough Jeffries ends up a 10th down after being a good couple of tenths up at sector 2. Great final sector for Christodoulou. That's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, very tricky indeed. You just saw it towards the end there. Axel Jeffries' time not quite enough to topple that in the final sector of Adam Christodoulou, as he now works his way through this next portion of the circuit, this next left, before he then enters sector 2. And, the latter stage of sector 1 leading out of turn 3. It's halfway between on this straight where you finalise sector 1 and then lead in towards turn 4. This is a very quick left-hander, and very easy to unsettle the car at this portion, but these drivers certainly more than capable of managing it as they head through turn 5 as well, hugging the inside again, before they then take on the chicane at turn 7 and 8 as well. But as you can now see them work their way through. Axel Jeffries still in second place. Moritz Kran still holds on to third. Gilardoni now down in fourth. Tell you, still early doors, plenty of thrills and spills still to come, with just over 16 minutes remaining in qualifying, so expect plenty of times to come rolling in thick and fast.
Here's a 777 car then in the hands of Marcin Jedlinski, a driver with plenty of experience here at the Hungaroring, courtesy of campaigns in Central European competitions and indeed over the years here in international GTOpen. In fact, he did compete earlier this season in this very car at the Hungaroring, albeit in slightly worse conditions than what we have today. So maybe that can be a bit of a competitive edge, a bit of extra data for the Olymp Racing team to utilise this weekend. Jedlinski with a personal best second sector there, currently 30th fastest on the timing screens with a 1:45.505, and we'll see whether he can find any extra time at the wheel of the Audi. Certainly looks like he is pushing on. We've seen a majority of the cars set lap times, and we've just seen Leonardo Pulcini set his first lap time of the session, and he's gone top. A 1:43.140 for Leonardo Pulcini puts the Oregon Team 63 car, the Lamborghini Huracan, up to the top of the timing screens for the time being at least. That leaves just one car left to actually set a time, and that is the Trevor Racing BMW M4 GT3 of Denis Wozek. And he currently leads his local championship here in the Central European region, and arriving with Jesse Krohn, a very formidable driver lineup in Pro-Am this weekend in the BMW. Here's Pulcini, and look at that first sector. This lap could be mega.
Unbelievable first sector, near enough 3.5 tenths in between that of 3.5 tenths. He's finding all sorts here, Leonardo Pulcini. A wonderful display at Belgium, where they won the endurance race that sent them back to the top of the standings, of course. The gap now in between is 10 points between that of Kevin Gilardoni and that, of course, of Glenn Van Berlo. So between that other Oregon car, they are making some serious progress. Still purple in the second sector as well. So Leonardo Pulcini, once again, looking to send it. The big question is, can he break into the 142s? You have to wonder, you certainly have to wonder whether he can. Leonardo Pulcini across the line, finalises that final sector, a massive 4 tenths clear now. 1:42.876. That is sensational, Adam.
Very, very strong time from Leonardo Pulcini. He's been kind of just lurking there in the pit box. That was just his second flying lap. Speaking of cars that were lurking in the pit box, here is the BMW M4 GT3 machine in the hands of Denis Wozek, who is Quite the experienced Czech driver, 10 years of racing in GTs, will be particularly familiar to Marcin Jedlinski because they have fought for numerous championships against each other over the years. And as for Jesse Krohn, will be familiar to anyone in the world of GT racing as a class winner at the Daytona 24-hour BMW factory driver. A man that knows his way around the M4 GT3. I think he's doing 2 full season campaigns this year in an M4 GT3. So he'll have lots of mileage and lots of wisdom for the Trevor Racing team as they make their first ever appearance in GTOpen with the new M4 GT3.
Wonderful to see a BMW on the track here in GTOpen this season, making its way through this next straight. It's going to take the very rapid turn 4 as he now commences sector 2 proper. Denis Waszek now through this next left, tackles a lot of the curve on inset, very nice and smooth indeed, comes through this next right, very progressive. And looking forward to seeing what this team can put together. Certainly making their first appearance, they alluded to, in the series. Lining up alongside Jesse Krohn in this particular car this weekend as they come through this very technical, tricky part of the circuit. I tell you what, the drivers really do have to be on point at this part, Adam, because it seems to narrow up quite a bit. Out of the chicane, you head through that next left, then you got the car always gets dragged out when you then head through turns 9 and in towards turn 10. So it's very, very tricky for a lot of these drivers to sort of navigate around this point of the circuit. Track limits can be an issue.
Track limits certainly can be an issue, yes, as Denis through turn 12 has to be careful not to take the AstroTurf there. It's rather unforgiving, especially from a traction perspective, if you end up on that AstroTurf. Denis Waszek just coming through the final corner now. Unlikely to be towards the very top of the order. He is the AM of this Pro-Am lineup, but let's see where he can be relative to the likes of Jedlinski. And he's up to 11th place, so already very strong. A 1 minute 43.938 from Denis Waszek. A great time in the first flying lap for the M4 GT3, just on the cusp of the top 10 behind Adam Osaka, the 786 Mercedes AMG GT3 car, the fastest of the AMs at the moment in 10th overall. Here is Dominic Baumann, currently 6th on the timing screens. And isn't this a familiar sight? An SPS Automotive Mercedes with the number 20 car with Valentin Pierberg's name on the door. That is a team combination, of course, that won championships here in GTOpen previously in the Pro-Am category back when Valentin Pierberg was teamed with Tom Onslow Cole. Now it's Dominic Baumann, though, who is his co-driver and a driver with well over a decade of GT racing experience. One of the most reliable hands you can possibly install into a Mercedes AMG GT3, and we cannot rule out the possibility that they are going to make an immediate mark on the top step of the Pro-Am podium this weekend.
Well, you'd have to expect so, certainly even off the experience that he has, and already Paul Cheney, we're just seeing for the time gaps below, 142.729 as you can see on the graphic. There you can see Paul Cheney now, wonderful lap time, 142.729, currently listed at the top of the standings, just over half a second of that of Adam Christodoulou. We still have over 10.5 minutes remaining, and we haven't seen Christodoulou venture out onto the circuit just yet, still currently pitted in right now. Axel Jeffries, certainly won't be shy of enlisting some improvements on his time either. We're still very much in the early doors of qualifying as far as the time gaps are concerned right now. Adam Osaka in 10th fastest, and in fact that's just been taken, I believe, by Denis Waszek as well. He's up into 10th now, ahead of Adam Osaka, so he's made those gains now at this point. So wonderful display, certainly from the BMW.
Yeah, absolutely. We are at this stage of the session now where the Michelin rubber will have been exchanged. A lot of cars have either just come in or indeed are just on their outlaps now after getting a new set of Michelin rubber. It tends to be about halfway through the session where we have a very, very busy pit lane, lots of teams changing out the rubber. And so we can expect times to get even quicker from here. Adam Osaka, they're very much testing the limits going through turn 11, and well, according to the timing screen, he didn't even register through the second split, so might have run a bit wide there. There's Baumann in that 20 car, obviously aping the last couple of years of Mercedes liveries theirs in Formula One, with the kind of almost Patronus green and the black livery. It's rather familiar, that, isn't it?
It does look a bit familiar as he now heads through the final corner. Yeah, it has to be said, obviously Mercedes donning many a brilliant livery in the past. Now as Baumann comes up towards the line, goes second fastest.
Wow.
So what a visit indeed, just over half a second away from that of Leonardo Polcini, so not bad at all. I'm sure that's certainly nothing to be sniffed at, as now we've got Dennis Vacek coming through, Axel Jeffries coming through. He goes first fastest, so 1:42.658, sensational. Just goes ahead there of Leonardo Polcini by a mere 700ths of a second. Incredible, well, 300ths of a second at that point.
1:42.658 then for Axel Jeffries. He didn't have the best first sector, but sectors 2 and 3 were absolutely nailed. And Jeffries to the top, such a handy force in a GT car. However, we're hyping up the time, and it's just been deleted for track limits at turn 11. 1:42.658 was the time, but it's been struck from the record. Jeffries put back down to 4th once again. It does seem, though, as though Leonardo Polcini's 1:42.729 stands. Let's keep an eye on this lap then for Axel Jeffries as he heads up through the chicane at turns 6 and 7. Over the curbs, aggressive line, absolutely must be used in these GT3 cars through 6 and 7. Of course, we saw the season opener at Estoril with Axel Jeffries at the wheel. He would run over the curbs and then the car would kind of shut down on him for a little while. We had all sorts of dramas with that at the season opener in Estoril. Jeffries will be hoping for none of that this time. He was certainly running to the extremes of the track at turn 11. Let's see if the lap stands. It's looking good so far. Can Jeffries put in another lap quicker than Leonardo Polcini? And will it stand once the stewards have glanced their eyes over it? Jeffries through the final corner, turn 14. And the 73 car out of the final corner now, spools up the turbo with that 3.9-litre V8 engine, and here comes Jeffries. It's a 1:42.889, not quite as quick as what we saw last time. Second place for now. Let's see if the lap stands. I somehow doubt that lap will stand for Adam Osaka. That was a little bit wide. And this is a replay of Jeffries as well. And, well, was that just about within the defined limits? We're going to have to wait and see.
Absolutely. Certainly Axel Jeffries up into second, now ahead of Dominic Baumann and Adam Christodoulou. Nick Moss in 5th place as well, so he's made certainly his stand, certainly here in the standings, as now we're seeing certainly Axel Jeffries now make his way in towards turn 4. You have to wonder, with only here just over 6 minutes left, this is where things are going to get very, very spicy. Leonardo Polcini still on top, 1:42.729 still to beat. You have to wonder whether someone could pull something out of the bag last minute to maybe get ahead and steal that P1 spot. Here comes Christodoulou. He comes across the line, second fastest, 1:42.737, a mere 0.08 of a difference between him and Polcini. That's a little bit of a statement, Adam.
It is rather, isn't it? 6 minutes of the session to go, and I'm pushing, says Adam Christodoulou in the number 18 FIBA Motorsport Mercedes AMG GT3. As George rightly said there, 0.08 of a second off of Polcini's best. Polcini is currently in the pit lane. He's going to be wanting them to bolt a new set of Michelin slicks onto that car now, so he can go lap time hunting, because that's certainly what Christodoulou is doing. You can see the car fighting him under braking and into turning through turn 4. And Christodoulou looking ever the man on a mission, but that was quite wide out of turn 5. We'll have to see whether that is judged to be legal. Bounces over those curbs. Always a great place to see the cars, particularly in slow-mo, through turns 6 and 7.
Yeah, makes his way through now out of the middle sector. Very shortly he'll have sector 3 to undertake. Now round in this next left-hander, very, very fast-paced in towards the next right. Very, very important to string a good run together. He's heading into sector 3 proper, down in towards turn 12 now very shortly. Every corner counts here at the Hungaroring. Every apex matters. Christodoulou, he'll know just with the mere fact, and look at that first sector time as well, that he did lose time in the second sector though. So unfortunately not looking to go out on a pace lap. Really, really unfortunate, but he will have hope off the basis that he's only 0.08 away from Polcini. He knows that there is time there to be savoured.
Yeah, clearly backed out of it then, coming out of turn 12. He'll give it another go, wind the car up again. Here's Dominic Baumann. You can always expect him to be up the sharp end as long as he's installed into a Mercedes GT3 car, very much within the track limits there for the number 20 driver. What's his sector looking like at the moment? Well, we look at Kevin Giardoni's sector times because they are looking particularly racy at this stage, whereas Giardoni on the screen 5th at the moment, half a second off the sister Lamborghini out of the Oregon team outfit. So let's see if this time gets in closer. Can he maybe find his way into the top 3? Just over 1.5 tenths between the top 3 drivers on the screen at the moment, as you can see, although we have just had a time deleted again for Axel Jeffries. Giardoni across the line for a 1:43.109 to put himself 3rd fastest, and Axel Jeffries briefly moved up the order, but has again dropped down. He has not been able to set a legal lap for the last few attempts.
Yeah, you have to wonder whether the frustration starts kicking in, you start to really push, and certainly with just over 3 minutes remaining, it does heighten those pressures, that's for sure, as we just see Kevin Giardoni round in the next left, heading through turns 2 into turn 3, a man who certainly has been trying to fight for the Team Oregon team to get his car higher up the order. Of course, it's been dominated by Polcini and, of course, Ben Jahites as well, but Gilardoni and Glenn Van Berlo are going to be looking to try and make a statement themselves and try and claim their first win this season. As they now head through this next right-hander now, Gilardoni. He now whittles his way down in towards the chicane, has gone faster again in the first sector, lost a little bit of time in the second, but is still working his way through, still opportunities higher up the order for him to take. And he'll want to try and reduce that gap between him and Christodoulou as best he can. Heads through this next right, and he's got another left to take too. Got turns 8, 9, and then 10, which will then lead you in towards turn 11, and then a nice steady straight, which he now enters now, leading down through towards the next one at turn 12. He'll venture into sector 3 now, and again, as he rounds it, hugging the apex, takes a lot of the curb on exit, looking very good in the Lamborghini Huracan. Axel Jeffries back at it again, finding improvements in the first sector, as we're now seeing Kevin Gilardoni head through in towards turn 14. Can he yet again find even more in sector 3? We'll have to keep our eyes peeled for this one. Adam Christodoulou, remember, just over 3 tenths, nearly 4 tenths of a second clear, as Gilardoni looks to put a hole in it. He certainly does, but it's still only enough for 3rd place. It's just outside the 2.5 tenths of a second mark, but let's wait and see what Axel Jeffries can pull off.
A 1:43 dead for Kevin Giardoni. Perfect time in the sense of anyone. Oh, and there goes the number 5 Olymp Ferrari. Very well avoided there by Alexander Krakowina. That was Stanislav Jedlinski having a bit of a spin. Jedlinski currently 21st and at the back of the order on a 1:49.125. And trying to improve his time there, but the car decided to step out on him. Here is Dexter Muller at the wheel of the 54 SPS Automotive Mercedes. He's currently 19th fastest. He'll be looking to make some improvements before this session comes to an end. But you see there, Jedlinski, I think, just asking too much of the car on turn-in at turn 12, and it looped around. Adam Osaka getting out of the way of Dexter Muller, is he? Yes, nicely done. Well managed there in the traffic. Muller coming up now towards what is the black spot for track limits, turn 11. And a bit wide of the apex, but well within the track limits, so this should at least be a legal time. Question is, will it be a quicker time for Dexter? The first 2 sectors suggest it's not going to be an improvement, unfortunately. The Dexter Muller pushes on.
Yeah, it certainly does. He'll round now out of turn 13. You just see him just hugging the apex, getting right and tight in turn 13. In fact, he'll then have turn 14. And again, similar story. Yeah, ran a bit wide again, but not to worry. Makes his way down the straight. No doubt you'll want to try and go again, perhaps in the final dying seconds, because of course he can register one more time, because he managed to cross the line just before the timer ticks away. As he now makes his way down through towards turn 1. Muller currently sat, as it stands, in 19th place. Will no doubt be looking to try and rise himself up the order to challenge with the likes of Murat Çağrıoğlu, and the checkered flag has been raised. The timer has ticked down to 0, so we're into the final moments, Adam.
Very much into these final moments of the session. Can anyone improve? We've got Adam Christodoulou out there, but he's not on a quick lap. Doesn't look as though there's anyone setting the timing screens on fire at the moment. In fact, quite a lot of the cars already into the pit lane before the end of this session. So I'm not convinced we're going to see anyone best that time of 1:42.729 from Leonardo Polcini. A few fast first sectors, but seems like most of those laps have been abandoned with the cars now into the pit lane. So Dexter Muller is going to be one of the last drivers to forge a new time in the session. We'll have to see whether it's a competitive one. 3:37 in the first sector. See the checkered flag waving there, and Marshall Post 0, as it says there on the little bunker. And that, of course, the all-important one with the checkered flag awaiting our drivers at the end of this qualifying session. Through turn 12 comes Dexter Muller, personal best second sector, so let's see if Muller can move up the order at all. Giardoni's on a quick lap, apparently, according to the timing screen, so let's see if Giardoni can improve at all. Waiting to see him across the line after Dexter Muller crosses the line. So Giardoni registers having a purple there in the first sector. That's not what we've got on the timing screens here, but let's see what that time is. Here comes Kevin Giardoni at the back of shot. Dexter Muller improves to a 46.1 and Giardoni to a 1:42.900. So that was a rapid time at the end, but still not quite enough. And rather impressively, he took exactly a 10th off of his time, which is already exactly a 1:43.000.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful visit.
And Leonardo Pulcini then fastest in that session, a 1:42.729, nets the Oregon team pole position for that session. Adam Christodoulou just a few thousandths away. Giardoni third, Moritz Kranz in fourth place. Dominic Baumann fifth and Axel Jeffries in sixth place. Nick Moss, a good showing there in P7 ahead of Steve Jans. Florian Schulze and Erwin Zanotti in 10th place. The first of the AM cars eventually was the Kessel Racing Machine. Adam Osaka just pipped to that honour then. Dennis Waszek in the Racing Trevor BMW. Great to have them with us. Returning after a big smash at Estoril as Peporo Motorsport, Daniel Diaz Varela, 13th place ahead of Giuseppe Cipriani. Alexander Rakowina in 15th place. Marcin Jedlinski 16th. Pascal Bachmann, Dexter Muller. And there you see the rest of the order. Let's go down to the pits.
Leonardo Pulcini, pole position at the new Hungaroring for race 1. After a nice fight with Jeffries and Christodoulou, how was it?
Yeah, it was an amazing feeling for me now, because we were just staying in the box to waiting for the first lap time they were doing, because yesterday, after our great pace we showed, we decided to keep one set of tires for the race. So it's a big advantage for us later on for the race. And I think I was very confident to do it. I just pit out from the pit and put some good laps. I was a bit unlucky with the traffic, because otherwise it was a bit better, but I think this track for us as a package is very good, so I'm very confident for the race. We'll start on pole, P1 and P3 for the team, so thanks to Oregon team and Lamborghini Sparkles.
And of course here at the Hungaroring, P1 is very important.
Yeah, for sure, to have a clean air in front is a big advantage, so I will try to push as much as I can.
Well done, all the best.
Great to hear then from Leonardo Pulcini. He's on pole. They've got a set of tyres in the rear view mirror as well. Very good for them. We will go racing with GTOpen at 14:55 local time, so make sure you join us for the first race of the weekend.